Welcome back to the Superdorf Show. Jeremy is not here. We replaced him with equally attractive people. We have Jody and Abby from the Curly Haired Keeper. And you guys are here for a very specific reason. I'm pretty excited to get into this. So Jeremy is actually on vacation. Did you guys hear where he went?
No.
He went to Jamaica, which is cool. I mean, Hadley just got back from Australia. All my staff is vacationing without me. That's okay. But with Jeremy, it's different because I have an aunt who has a resort in Jamaica, and he met up with, Jeremy's actually my cousin on my dad's side.
Okay.
He randomly met one of my cousins on my mom's side, who's the son of my aunt who has this resort in Jamaica. Now, the last time I went to this, or I should say attempted to go visit my aunt, I got deported.
Oh no.
That's a different story. However, so Jeremy now...
on brand, by the way.
So Jeremy now is going to my aunt's Jamaican resort without me, and he's not in the family. I mean, he's in like the family, but not like that the family.
Right.
So I'm very jealous and upset, but we're here with you guys instead, so that makes me feel a little bit better.
That makes your complaint about your staff going on vacation without you slightly more valid.
Yeah, to my aunt's resort that I got deported from without me. I did tell him to bring me back.
Was it your fault that you got deported though?
That is very subjective.
Yes,
All right, so we're live streaming anyways. We want to actually talk about, oh, it looks like Lori Torini's in here.
Oh, hi, Lori.
Am I not allowed back in Jamaica? I haven't tried. The only good thing was that passport is gone, so like all the stuff is not there anymore, so I could try again. Lori, I'm actually glad that you're here. Lori does a lot of animal behavioral stuff. We'll shout out her channel. If you guys haven't followed it, you definitely should. I know you guys have watched a lot of their stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
yeah.
So it's a big deal on, you know, how you handle your animals and everything. So we are both doing something very different from what most people do, I think. It's certainly different from what we do as breeders right now.
Yeah, I think it's definitely different than the industry standard for sure.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why we have you guys here. So it's going to be pretty cool. We got a lot of cool talks about fun stuff going on. Tonight, as always, the show is brought to you by Ship Your Reptiles. They're the OGs in reptile shipping. We actually had 2 brand new bouncing baby clutches shipped to us today from Ship Your Reptiles. Of course, all our boxes going out too. But if you're on our Patreon, you can join us for the after party, and I will show you some new babies. They're just starting to shed. I'm actually really excited to show you guys too.
yeah.
Oh, nice.
So you can join with us on Patreon too. Click the link in the app. Hopefully Jeremy put some kind of link there. If not, go to Patreon, look up Reach Out Reptiles. I got one more shout out though, because I think this is the coolest, we'll call it like a fan mail gift. I don't know if that's necessarily entirely accurate, but I want to shout this out because this thing is pretty sick and sweet. So we had, if you guys haven't ever seen their channel, go check out Hardwired Exotics. But Tony actually gifted me, this is something that me and my boys are really into. And when I say really into, like we watch other people do it and don't do it ourselves at all. But forging knives on YouTube. And he made this, first of all, awesome leather pouch. But look at this knife. It's like a folded Damascus. I don't know if you can see the layers in the steel there, with a bone handle. Awesome little bird knife, and it's stout.
Yeah, it's got
That
a
is
nice
awesome.
like balance to it.
Yeah, so thank you, Hardwire Exotics. That's like way too much.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cool. So we're gonna hide that out. If you guys come to Retic Fest, you'll have to come see it. It's pretty neat. Maybe we'll throw it at someone. Something.
I too have binged like Forge and Fire, so that's the only reason I know words like 50-layer Damascus and edge geometry and stuff like that. But
That's it. Yeah,
it's
for
super
sure.
entertaining to watch, but it looks really intense to try and do.
We watch it with my kids to put them to sleep before they go to bed. If they're like, tell me a story, and I'm too tired that night, I'm like, let's watch a knife forging. It's like, and it's like just interesting enough because it looks like lava and sparks to keep their attention, but boring enough that there's no story, they don't care, and they'll fall asleep.
And then they have like nightmares of martial arts specialists just going like ballistic dummies.
Potentially.
I have no idea what they're talking about, so.
Oh, that's pretty cool. We're gonna have to get you hooked on it. All right, so what we're talking about tonight, maternal incubation. Now, Karma, our big girl who lives in this enclosure behind us, is currently sitting on, we don't know how many eggs. It was funny how everyone kept asking. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
how do you get in there? And you know what I mean? She was 200 pounds. She's probably more like 130 now.
Yeah.
But I think she probably laid 80-ish eggs. This is her fourth clutch. First with us, but her first time maternally incubating. So if you don't know what this means, typically in the industry, when people are breeding, like we breed our super dwarfs, downstairs the mother will lay eggs. We'll take the eggs away from her and put them in an artificial incubator. And the reason I do this, I think everyone does it differently. Some people, that's just kind of like how you grew up or whatever.
Right.
But the reason I do this, it's easier to nail the correct parameters, talk about temps and humidity, in an incubator versus a minimalistic cage, right? Because our cages are made for them to climb and exercise. They have a hot side and a cold side, so they can thermoregulate. Everybody does it differently, but this is how we do it. And then, they've got their water bowl, and then it has to be very easy to get in and clean.
Clean, right.
So we constantly, retics, if you've kept them before, oh my goodness, they're work hard, play hard snakes, like I said.
They're wild childs for sure.
And they can be very messy.
Yeah.
So we want to go in and clean them all the time. One of our 4-foot typical enclosures takes 3.5 minutes to clean. Top to bottom, scoured, ready. Snake can go soak, get all the shed off. It's very easy. Not exactly a naturalistic approach.
Right.
It's more like living in a gym, I would say. You know what I mean?
That's a good analogy.
And if you're in the gym, you definitely want to wipe the table down every now and then between workouts. Like there's a lot of
don't be
stuff.
that guy that uses a machine and then doesn't.
Don't be
tell
that
it all.
guy.
But you probably don't want to have a baby in the gym.
No, I don't think you would. Yeah, so we take them away. We put them in the incubator.
Well,
We can
it's
get the
perspective.
exact right, because in the cage, people always think like, okay, they're going to choose fun or they're going to choose even temperature correct. They don't do that. They choose security, number one. That's the number one concern of these animals. So like, let's say for example, for whatever reason, they feel more exposed on the cold side. They want to be right over on the hot side. That could be too hot and kill the eggs.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, too cold and kill the eggs. We actually have problems with first-time females a lot of times. They don't incubate the eggs when they're gravid. When the eggs are inside them for about 2 months, they don't do a very good job.
Oh, interesting.
And then they lay, and then about 2 weeks after they lay, those eggs, they come out looking good, but they all start to die. And so those first-time moms have a tough time with that sometimes, let alone maternal incubation. With a reticulated python, that means 3 months of potentially not eating, although sometimes they can. It means having shed cycles, being able to, defecate and everything in between all that. 3 months being, vigilant that no predators are coming and attacking their eggs. They're usually not able to do them in areas that are super secure, especially if you're talking about mainlands.
Right.
It's a big snake,
Yeah.
So they got to be on the offense. There's all kinds of predators. But you guys are setting something up a little bit different. So this is really cool. I've been following along Curly Haired Keeper, and you guys definitely should too. So why don't you tell us about your first ever reticulated python breeding experiment? The first time you breed, it's always an experiment, right?
Yeah.
You guys are taking it to another level.
Yeah, this is definitely an experiment because we don't know if it's worked yet. We will find out very soon.
It's like the faith like potatoes, right? You plant them, you're like, I hope they're growing under
The
there.
anxiety is building every day. But yeah, we built Stella, who is technically yours.
Yes.
This is her third clutch, right? Third clutch, first time. It's her first time.
I think so.
Yeah.
We only had one clutch. It was the infamous 22009 because
Yeah.
her babies are like
gorgeous.
absolutely gorgeous.
But yeah, I believe it's her second or third clutch, first time maternally incubating. And the way we set up her is in full bioactive. She was a good girl and laid where we wanted her to lay. So her parameters have been spot on. She's been able to leave the hide, shed, take care of business well away. Like she literally, when she shed and had to pee, when she left her clutch, it was literally on the opposite side of the nest.
That's awesome.
And she's like up on a shelf, like underneath the heat panel. She would have been fine had she peed closer, but she didn't. So that was cool. But yeah, that's the gist.
We'll take you guys inside of Karma's cage here in a minute so you can see what it looks like to have a giant mom wrapped around the eggs and stuff. This is our big, almost 21-foot female.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy. But you guys were all set up in case anything else went wrong, right? When it came time for her laying, I know that you guys had, plans and everything for artificial incubation. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? But the idea was always to do this maternally.
Yep.
Yeah, and we actually had a couple of different options. So the way that Stella's tank is set up, it's 4 feet tall, and we had it made with some really sturdy like shelving, so that she not only has like, you know, side to side heat gradient, but also, you know, obviously the top shelf being, you know, warmer than the cage floor. So we set up a kind of like a lay nest on the top shelf, as well as she had kind of an upside down hide with sphagnum moss in it.
She had a favorite hide, yeah.
Down
We'll put her favorite
on
That's,
hide
I think,
there.
the hardest part, right?
Yeah.
Is giving them something
Right,
that
giving
they're
them the options.
that they have to. It's very hard for us to get what they need.
Right.
Absolutely correct.
Right, and that's a good point, because that's been the whole focus, is supporting her and giving her what she needs to succeed in maternal incubation. But that's the biggest challenge, because it is about, like, you need so much space
Yeah.
to do it. She's in a 12-foot long enclosure, and she's way smaller than Karma. She's
Right.
12 feet long, a little over 12 feet.
Right.
And at this point, she's probably like 25, 30 pounds. She's normally 40.
That's a big cage. For reference, this is 13 feet long, this cage. And, you know, we can get in there, walk all around and everything like that. And we're building an even, you know, like 24-foot cage or whatever. But
Right.
with this one at 13 feet, and yours is only 1 foot shorter.
Shorter. But that's the beauty of like dwarf and super dwarf though, right? Because they
Right.
won't get to that huge, you know, 20-foot long mark. So it's a little bit, you have a little bit more flexibility as far as how much space you need to house them in, like giving them a lot of space. So
Now, the advantage, it was funny, we were talking about before the live stream. I don't know if they're chatting in or anything. If you guys have any questions, send a chat in, especially a super chat. We can see it. Jody's
They're mostly talking to each other.
Oh.
But if you guys have questions, feel free to direct them to me.
super chatting, and Jody will read it,
I
and
know,
then we'll
I know
see
the
it.
same. Yes,
I
I'll also
can
keep
I
an eye
can
out for
see
super
little
chat.
chats going, but it's way over there.
yeah.
But one of the things that is interesting is like I was talking about before, back in the day, like when I started breeding, maternal incubation was a better option. And so the moms are such good moms that in a lot of ways they can make up for poor husbandry. And
Yeah,
so
that's a
even
good
if you
point.
give them like, here's your lay box, or here's the only spot, or let's say they're in a cage that they can't even move around in. Like a lot of ball pythons are kept in racks, right? Like they can hardly move around. When they curl up, they're like the width of the entire cage. They're on half of it, right? And the other half is where their water is. So they have one option. But they can still do a pretty good job. Now, if your thermostat goes crazy and cooks the eggs from underneath and stuff, then there's some very unnatural things that they can't deal with. But our girl has overhead heat. I think yours has overhead
Yeah,
heat.
she has overhead heat.
So it's more like sunlight
Yeah.
or naturally coming down on them. And it's pretty cool because I think the situation she laid in is it's not what I would consider ideal. It's close. But the way she laid in there, she presented herself with some interesting options. And it's been or interesting obstacles, let's say. And it's been really fun to watch her overcome those. So it's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
I want to hear about some of that stuff. But do you guys want to go inside and check out Karma's cage from the inside there?
Oh.
Should be pretty cool.
Let's do it.
All right, cool. Let me pull this off. Disengaging shaky cam. Sorry, everybody. All right, I think we'll have some room in here. We have a convenient park bench for you guys. She's got her giant water bowl over here, but she hasn't been using it. She's been fiercely protecting her eggs. So let's just show you guys how we have this set up. Because normally she's in here and she runs around all the time, right? One of her favorite spots is behind this water bowl.
Yeah.
In fact, we used to have it up against the wall, and she's so big, she would curl up there and just like that,
Elbow
push
it
it
up.
out and give herself like a nice, so she likes to sit on the
I
cold
don't know
end.
that I could move this water bowl.
No, it's
It's heavy.
yeah, no,
strong.
she's pretty impressive. And then when she needs to shed and everything, we've got this like very sandy textured universal rock along the bottom here. She loves to come see what's going out. So we have a natural window here. It's not south facing or anything, but that's what this bench is. She loves to come up here, get some sunlight. This is all when she doesn't have eggs. Occasionally she uses this. It's more cute than anything else. She didn't like it that much, unfortunately.
She had an artificial light in here for, what was it, 1 day?
Yeah, it was a little less
Or
than one
now.
day, for sure.
She didn't want it.
But let's see. Okay, so this is her hide box. Now this is huge. It's like the size of a Superdorf enclosure. It actually has a shelf in it and everything like a Superdorf enclosure. And naturally, she can curl up over about half of it. You can see a little water on here because we have a radiant heat panel on the underneath of this that radiates heat down. And so she went in there to get the heat, but the shelf, we have everything like not on 90s. Like, see, this thing is across the corner that way. So her shelf is kind of like that too.
Mm-hmm.
And the radiant heat panel is here, the shelf is here, and then she's down on the ground. So she laid half under the heat and half under the shelf. And the shelf is like blocking that heat.
The heat,
Right.
yeah.
The reason we made it like that is so she could jump up on the shelf and get really hot, or go down underneath it. So there's like 3 different temperature zones within the cage,
Right.
like on the shelf,
Within
under the
the
shelf, or right under the heat.
Mm-hmm.
And then plus some of that heat comes up through here. We'll catch her basking, especially when she's curious. We actually gave her like a special viewing window without the bars, you know, because who wants to look through the bars if you could have a... So anyway, I don't know if you guys remember doing that, because these
Yeah.
guys helped me
We
build
helped
the
build-
enclosure.
I bought her that mailbox.
Yeah,
Still
there's
haven't
her.
installed it.
There's her mailbox. Well, it's there. It's right there on the side. I thought about putting it up top since you were coming. It was like, oh, Jody's coming. Better get the
Call me
mailbox.
on it, yeah.
Get the mailbox on it. And here he brought it up. Okay, so let's see what's going on with Karma. So what we did to set her up, first of all, we've got her on a cypress and coconut mulch mix. And this helps us to hold a lot of humidity. And then we brought her a smaller water bowl that only holds 2 or 3 gallons, which is like a little sip for her, and put it right next to her, not only to help increase the humidity in this area for the eggs, but and you guys can feel it. It's way more humid
It's
in
really
here.
humid in here.
Yeah, you can
Compared to
feel it
outside,
going
it's
through.
what, 8 degrees warmer, just the ambient.
Yeah.
It's like a sauna.
Brandon
It
says
is.
it's pretty cool to see a tiny home as an enclosure.
It's pretty fun, yeah. So we like seeing it. I can't wait to get her in her big home. Like, I could live in that home.
Yeah.
But you'll
Yeah, that's bigger than my first dorm room.
Oh yeah,
Is
it's
that
quite a bit larger than several of the places that I've lived. So here she is, and what we did to set it up was, you can see we added a bunch of sphagnum moss in there, which she actually kind of piled up and laid on top of.
That's what Stella did too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So she made herself a little pile. You can see the shelf there, and then that red thing is the heater. So what happened, I don't know if I can show you from top down, this side of her is exposed to pretty direct heat. And so the surface of her skin is getting like 92 degrees, which is pretty hot for eggs. That's too hot for eggs. Ideally, in artificial incubation, we will probably go for like we incubate around 87 and a half. So anywhere from like 86 to 90, and 90's kind of on the high end.
Yeah.
You're pushing it a little bit. So she's at like 92. Now in the back, she's quite a bit cooler than that, maybe like 87. But so she's got her eggs halfway under the heat and halfway not. Now, she uses her body to completely conceal them. It actually doesn't even look like she has any eggs. I'll see if she'll let me show you some in a little bit here. I don't want to mess with her too much. But what's cool is, so she's got this circle laid, half of it's too hot, half of it's too cold. And so what she'll do is bask like that and then rotate 180 degrees.
Like her body.
Yeah, I need to get it on a time lapse, because she'll sit there and this part will get too hot, this part gets too cold, and then
That's
she
awesome.
rotates 90. And she has to do it
So
constantly.
she's like distributing
Like
herself
burp,
as the
burp,
heater.
burp, burp. Exactly. Well, you think about it, it's like before she laid, she was almost 200 pounds.
Right.
So that's a massive thermal mass.
Right.
She's got 8 inches or so of insulation on top of those eggs. Now, between the temperature challenges and the humidity, which it's very humid in here, but it's not like my incubators. My incubator is like dripping water from the sides, 100% humidity
That's
all
what
the time.
Stella's been doing.
Yeah, she's been keeping it at like 99.9. We actually had to take the Govee.
Govee
Abby had to
out.
get it out of there because it was starting to like
We had condensation
on
got
it.
it.
Oh,
So we didn't want like the battery
battery
contacts and
acid
stuff like
and
that.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, to start to corrode.
Yeah, so we missed this down on the daily, and I mean, you could tell, like, all the substrate is wet, big water bowl there, but check out this shed. Now, she's huge. She never sheds in one piece anymore, but you can see all the dry shed on her and she shed a few weeks ago. I think Stella shed mid incubation too, right?
She did, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
3
it
weeks ago?
took her 2 weeks to actually leave her hide and get all of the shed off of her, but
Yeah.
Yeah. Karma tried, but bless her heart.
Oh, poor Karma.
she's like 60% dry shed right now. She's got it off of her face. I actually plucked one of her eye caps off. She retained an eye cap, so have
She let
fun
you
doing
do it?
that with a, well, I did it.
enough.
I wouldn't say she like let me do it.
Enjoy.
Okay, so let's look at this now, proof in the pudding, and see how we're doing. Hey, Karma. Hey, girly. Now she's super amped up. Look at how well worn. You can see this trail around her. I don't know how well you can see that from her going round and round those eggs. But I'm gonna go ahead and use a hook because I see her inching towards me, saying, "Get away from my eggs." I just want a little peek underneath. Now she looks really full, but they actually like hollow their bellies out and hold the eggs. Can you guys see right under the hook there? That nasty green. Hi, BB. It's okay. I'll give you a little pet. I know. She's like, what is going on? Come here. Let's just lift. Can we get a little tickle, little lift? There's one of the eggs. It looks horrible. It's dead for sure. And I thought, oh my gosh, they're all dead. Here, let me see them. Let's see if I can rotate this camera. Okay. Oh, I don't know if you guys can see it, but right in the dark there, you can see some white. See that little corner of white to the left between her coils? That's the edge of a really good looking egg. So at first I thought these eggs are terrible. They're all dead. They started dying, you know, like I said, a couple weeks into incubation. So it could already be those first 2 months where she didn't have the right temps or whatever and was giving the eggs a hard time. But after that, whew, it's humid. You guys want to step back outside?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a good
Okay.
breather.
Garrett's
let,
sweating.
yeah, we'll let Karma. I think Karma's sweating too. Good girl, Mama. So what's started to happen, and we've got pictures and stuff along the way. Hit subscribe if you guys aren't already, so that you can stay up with the whole adventure. We'll have a video about it here soon.
Yeah.
But
Comments in the chat about how like interesting it is the way that they're in tune to their temperatures and make those adjustments.
oh, it's amazing. Like, and they really, I mean, they've thought of everything.
They really
You know what
have.
I mean? It's
As long
crazy.
as long as they have the like, because Stella did the same thing. She laid in her sphagnum nest and like kind of gathered some sphagnum underneath to lay the eggs on, and like since then she's just been keeping them like between 86 and like 88.
Now you were saying that you had that little Wi-Fi temperature and humidity
Yep.
sensor in there.
Yeah.
And she's got it like very stable temps.
She does let the temps fluctuate by like 2 degrees,
Okay.
but that's it.
The humidity was really stable.
Yeah, the
Okay.
humidity.
Humidity
is-
she kept super stable at
Yep.
like 99.9.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
great.
Yeah, and because she's a bioactive, we have the charcoal and the springtails
Okay.
in there, so I haven't seen any like major cases of mold pop up or anything like that.
So
even with her keeping it
We
so
did that
high.
even with the artificial incubation,
Yep.
if you remember that one, where I
Yep.
put springtails in charcoal underneath and they would come up and eat any other moldy eggs. And the experiment was, really what I would love to do is develop a maternal incubation nest box that was made for the greatest success. Give the females that, nice and enclosed, you know, with like a sphagnum or kind of like a porous substrate with the springtails underneath so that they could come up. And just like Karma's eggs, some of them are molding, but it wouldn't damage the good eggs. Now, really, if the eggs are good, they're probably not going to be damaged anyways. I'm always amazed how, like an egg in the middle of the pile, let's say they're even good eggs, that thing is landlocked. It is glued to other eggs on every inch of its surface. And yet somehow they are still okay.
And they're
like-
still like the same temperature throughout. That's the other thing. It's like the clutch is so tall, like you have several layers of eggs.
Yeah.
And even with that, like I would temp gun Stella because she's so docile. She lets me do pretty much whatever, even while she's on her eggs. And I'll temp gun like top to bottom, and she'll have the same temperature from like bottom to top.
Well, I mean,
It's
like I said,
cool.
Karma was about 200 pounds before she laid. So her and her pile of eggs is 200 pounds of thermal mass.
Yeah.
Once you get it up to temp, it's not going to cool down easily. And once you cool it off, it's not going to warm up easily.
Yeah. Right.
You know, so they spend a lot of time getting their bodies just right during those 2 months where they have the eggs inside them. And then when they come out, one of the most amazing things, I don't know if you guys have gotten her off of the eggs enough to notice this or not, But, you know, normally a snake is shaped like this, right? It's a big round circle. But after those eggs are laid, they have this like hollowed out, saggy belly,
she
especially the
definitely does.
last third.
Yep.
And so it's shaped more like this. And they actually, it'd be almost like this. And they'll actually like cup it over, you know, kind of like this, over their pile of eggs.
Yeah.
And hold the eggs around, like wrapping around like, you know, 270 degrees or whatever around the pile of eggs and keeping them in there. So if you imagine, instead of like an inflated inner tube being the snake like they normally are, it's almost like an empty car tire and stuffing the eggs on the inside
Yep.
there. That's what they're shaped like. They grab and hold on to these things.
Like a 3-month-long hug.
Yeah.
They're diligent moms.
Here's
It's
the other
crazy.
incredible thing. I don't know how they do this. So a lot of times as snake breeders, we candle the eggs, which is basically, you ever shine a flashlight through your finger and it turns bright red and you're like, ooh, it looks like an x-ray, you know? Sometimes you can see the bone in there or whatever. So with the eggs, if you candle these eggs, you can tell if it has veins and stuff. Is it a fertilized egg or is it an infertile egg? When you candle it, or maybe it's like fertile and they're weak, or are they big, strong babies? So I don't know what it is that makes an egg viable or not viable or whatever, but sometimes you candle an egg and it looks good. It's got good veins, everything's good, but you can tell that as soon as it's laid, it starts dying for some reason. It's almost like the baby is able to be certain well, it was inside the mother, but not outside the mother. We had Karma, like I said, I think her clutch, if I had to guess, is 70 or 80 something eggs. And during the process, like we have a time lapse of her laying them, and she found one egg and she snooted it off and rolled it aside and then wrapped the rest of them up. And then incredibly, I grabbed it and tried to incubate it, but incredibly, you know, it had veins and everything like that.
And it died?
It died like right away.
Yeah.
She knew
They
that
know.
egg
They know, it's crazy.
was gonna die.
Yeah.
Now, our eggs are not going as good as it sounds like your eggs are going. So this has happened to me both times. I've only done 2 maternal incubations with retics, and I did a 3rd one with Burms a long time ago. I'll give you the short story on all of those. The Burms, I lost power in the middle of winter for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, really early in incubation. I think it was literally as she was laying or right after she laid.
Oh.
The eggs were all fine. Mom incubated them. This is literally like in my parents' house when I was a kid, you know, in high school. She incubated all the eggs and everything. I didn't even tell my mom. My mom was in there for, I think Burms go for like 55 days or something. They're not as long. But for those 2 months, my mom didn't notice that there were eggs because she was like hiding them. And then one day it was like, boom, explosion, and there's like giant vent holes and everything in this old 90s cage DIY job that I did. So the babies were all over the room and stuff like that. Interestingly, they all hatched the entire clutch with no eyes.
Oh, fascinating.
I think it was the temperature thing.
Yeah.
Like, I know that the eyes and the spine are some of the first things to develop.
Yeah.
So I think early on that temperature just killed the eye development when it was happening.
So crazy.
And then they went on, they were healthy snakes. They all lived. One of them I had for a long time.
Just
Yeah.
no eyes.
Just no eyes, just smooth. Second time, the reason we decided to maternally incubate, we kind of wanted to try it, was when Rob worked here, and then Rob and I were gone for like 4 days, and a snake had laid while we were gone. We didn't know if she had just laid, if it was like 4 days ago, but she seemed really determined, and she looked cute, and we were curious, so we're like, we'll let her do it. And what happened was, we called it like the sacrificial layer, like all the eggs on the outside of the pile died. With that snake, it was a smaller female, it was about 20 eggs. So everything that was on the outside slowly died. It did like what karmas are doing. As they die, they don't have the same, you know, kind of like viscosity or firmness anymore. So they kind of like shrivel up. They go from grapes to raisins.
Right.
So it was like this layer of leather raisins on the outside. But then all the babies inside hatched. And so I think she laid something like 20 and we got like 8 babies. That was experiment number 1.
Yeah.
And no prep, no nothing. We did give her a lay box afterwards. We actually managed to like kind of scoop her up and put her in a lay box so that we could slide it back and forth to the heat and get it a little bit better because she was like way on the cold side. And she was doing the shiver thing, which my burn did too. When the temps were off, she was like shivering and trying to use friction to generate a little extra heat. Yeah. And the eggs will generate heat themselves. I think that's part of the reason why they cap them off so tight. And at times when it gets too hot, like if it's midday, did you ever notice Stella like making cracks in her coils?
Yep.
The Karma will do that too. She'll like space them all out. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you know, we had a generator installed last about a year ago, last April, and we hadn't had any power outages since it was installed until just after
Stella
laid.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So like that was our like road test of this generator, and we have an automatic transfer switch, so we don't have to be home for it to kick in, and it kicked in, and our generator worked perfectly, and like, you know, we were very, very relieved to have that backup plan, you know.
And your snakes might have eyes.
Hopefully.
The ones were pretty cute with no eyes, though. I liked them.
Yeah.
So I think what's happening here with Karma is the same like sacrificial layer. And I'll tell you, I don't have enough experience doing maternal incubation. That's kind of one of the fun things about it though, right? It's sort of like the OG way that everyone's sort of gotten away from with our artificiality and need for controlling of every micrometer of everything that goes in our cage, right? And you miss a lot of that natural, like the beauty of the natural process.
Yeah.
So.
And like as a first time breeder, because Stella's is our first clutch ever.
Yeah.
I definitely trust her to do a better job of incubating her clutch than I ever could as a, you know, newbie breeder. So that was kind of my thought process, is create a space that will support her to do that, and just let her do her thing and see what happens.
That's a great thought process too. I mean, like we say it all the time. I've heard other people say it as well, but like you want to be a student of your snake.
Yeah.
Like if you pay attention and you know the animal, they'll pretty clearly ask you for things or show you what's wrong or show you what they need and things like that. Oh, we got a super chat. What's up?
MJW Vlogs.
What's up? This is the vlogs. How's it going? Welcome.
Somewhere from I think the UK. It's 3 pounds we got.
Oh, sweet.
Thank you.
I love super chats in pounds. That's much better. That's like
The
I don't
exchange
know,
rate.
I don't know what the exchange rate is, but thank you very much. That's very cool. So what does that feel like now? So first time breeders, you know, I know a lot of people watching have bred maybe once or twice, or they're aspiring first time breeders.
Yeah.
But then to kind of like, it seems risky because you are trusting the mom, but like there's so much literature, there's so many YouTube videos and things like that about how to incubate eggs. It's one of our most popular videos, how to incubate reptile eggs.
Right.
So you can do that to a T. You can buy an out of the box incubator and all this kind of stuff. But maternal incubation, almost nothing.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of information out there.
I haven't read Ari Flagel's book on the black pythons. Would be pretty cool because he studies a lot of females in the wild. You know, totally different species. But how's it been for you?
It's been great. Like, I mean, Stella, you know Stella, she's wonderful. She's
great.
super easy to work with. She's let me stick my hand into the clutch, and she's just like, hello.
She is a big puppy of a snake.
She really is.
Like Abby hand feeds her water because she doesn't want to come off the clutch to drink. So she'll just, you know, hold a water bowl up to her and she'll.
Oh yeah, I can like dip my fingers in the water and wave them in front of her nose, and she's like, ooh, water.
Right.
I'm like, don't do that with your big retake. Don't recommend it. But with her, I feel totally comfortable doing it because she's just so chill, and she knows who I am. But yeah, no, she's made it very, very easy. She laid where we wanted her to lay, which was perfect. I think we did a lot of leg work up until the time that she laid as well. So having her in that big enclosure, we do a lot of behavioral observations. So I knew that she had her favorite hide. If I took it out, she'd literally go looking for it. I'm like, let me put that up on the clutch, like up on her lay box. And sure enough, she
put her favorite hide in the ideal temperature range.
in the ideal temperature range. And sure enough, like a week before she laid, she just like went and started living in there.
Now you guys have weird plans for the babies too. They're doing like a whole thing. So people have always asked us about, they want like organic snake babies, right? Like I want snake babies that are raised the way I want to raise my snake. I want the parents to be raised that way. I want the babies to be raised that way. We're like a commercial facility. We do absolutely the best we can with the husbandry, and we're always trying to push for better.
Yeah, and you
but
do a
it's
great
not
job
the
with
same. If you got a baby snake, you know, raised by us, we have nice snakes, our staff handles them, we do all that, but it's an artificial environment. We'll show you our baby setups and stuff if you guys come on Patreon. You guys have something totally different, and I think most people probably set them up more like us, at least in the beginning.
Yeah, and
Breeders.
I know we're not the first ones by any means to do this, but yeah, we have essentially like a nursery set up. So we're moving the babies as soon as they shed their egg skin into bioactive enclosures. So they're gonna have their own.
So you're
2
gonna
by
leave
2.
them in with Stella until after they shed their egg skin for like a week?
I don't know. It depends on when they leave the clutch. So
Oh,
if she
okay.
comes off the clutch and they're like still in their egg skin, we'll obviously scoop them all up.
Yeah,
They're all
they're
like
running all
freedom
over the place,
and like
right.
all over that giant enclosure. We'll go find them.
So you're starting with
And
the
we
choice-based handling right out of the gate.
Right, exactly.
Whenever you want to leave the mom, you can come to the nursery.
Exactly.
So what is the nursery?
The nursery is a bunch of Toad Ranch enclosures. We talked to Jared at Toad Ranch, who's amazing, and he built us a bunch of 4x2s with dividers.
Okay.
So we have those divided. So we have 2x2 squares,
Okay.
2 in each 4x2, and then those have full bioactive setups. So substrate, a bunch of plants, cork bark everywhere, climbing branches, water.
How many
bowls.
2-foot cubes do you have then?
24.
Oh wow. Are you gonna try to do one baby per or a couple babies
We're gonna
per?
do a couple babies per and
Yeah,
see,
okay.
because it's such a big space and we have enough space to provide them multiple hides. They have a little corner shelf that they
Sure.
built for us as well for a basking spot. They're gonna have UV from VivTech, have
Yeah.
LED lighting, I'll have a light cycle. So
I think it's the best way to do it. I mean, there's so many studies coming out about even babies starting to eat and stuff like that they do better in groups. Because you'll
Yeah.
get one that kind of does the instinctual thing and the others will follow
There you go,
along.
yeah.
But they can learn from each other and not just on their
Yeah.
own. So,
Yeah, and Lori mentioned, a fun shout out here from Lori Torini that, what makes sense about it is you want to raise the snakes to succeed in the environment that, they're going to be likely to be moving into.
Yeah.
That way they're used to, they can see out the front glass windows. They're, when we're coming in to do interaction with them, it's not only for feeding and cleaning. We're not coming down from above. Where it might feel like they are.
Yeah, they're all front opening enclosures.
Like in a kind of predatory situation. Like so that essentially, Lori, I always appreciate your kind of feedback on stuff like that. But that really, I think, was a lot of our intent with that, is to kind of get them into that kind of an environment.
Yeah, and I
really
think
early on.
the other thing is like I'm really good at keeping bioactive. Like it's kind of the opposite of like I'm really good at keeping
it's like the
big
pet
snakes.
within the pet.
Right, kind of. But like I love keeping big active snakes on bioactives, and I've been able to do it pretty successfully. So that's just the norm that I am used to. So like I feel like I can do better by the babies by keeping them in a way that I know that I'm comfortable with.
So this all sounds well and good, but I am interested. Now, if I go buy organic strawberries that people have to like fight bugs without chemicals and go through all these things to get that organic label, I have to pay more for these strawberries. So are you guys gonna pay more for your organic home, or charge more for the organic home? Because oh my gosh, the cost. Even just, you could set up for the amount of money that the sphagnum moss for a lay box costs, you could build a whole incubator and incubate 6 clutches in it. Right? You're talking about 4x2x2 enclosures.
I am trying to grow my own sphagnum moss as well, by the way. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can nail that, let me know, because we
working
could
on it.
use it for Carmen's
Yeah,
pig cage.
oh my gosh.
That'd be crazy. Yeah, but like, we've got little baby tubs, little hatchling racks or whatever. But you're doing a 2x2x2 enclosure and a 4x2. I mean, a massive expense there. So I would say if somebody was going to go buy because they wanted to get a snake that has had that experience, I think it's new to the reptile industry, but it makes sense. Like I said, strawberries is one thing. Or if I had a dog, and I got it from a top breeder that, like, I've got young kids, so kind of like you were saying, Lori, I would want a dog that maybe, like, there were kids in the family raised like that they already, did a lot of, training and exposure to different things, people and stuff like that, as much as possible when I got that puppy. There's some people that are like, hey, it's hit the minimum number of weeks, and it eats and it poops and out it goes. That's how almost everyone is in the reptile industry, right? Like, hey, this snake has had a meal, it's on frozen thawed, that's above and beyond, here we go. Like for us, we try to get them 6 or 8 meals so that they're taking well off the tongs, they're used to people approaching them. that stuff even takes time, right? And it's an expense and a liability, even just that much times 500 babies or whatever, you know. But what you guys are doing is another level. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean,
What are your guys' thoughts on that? Let us know in the chat.
And that's the thing, like we want to make sure that our biggest thing with selling the babies that we produce is doing whatever we can to ensure that they're going to homes that are, you know, responsible and have the capacity to care for that baby in its adult version.
Well, and I know for you guys, I know that it never was about the money. You guys are both very successful. You don't need this money. But on the other hand, it does kind of set a precedent for the industry, which is really cool. And it's fun to do something one time, but if you want to implement a broader change, it has to be financially viable. Would you guys support something like that? I think that's kind of the big question.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
We are certainly hoping a clutch or two will at least pay off the nursery setup that we did for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those, like, we don't obviously want to sell babies for, you know, $50 because we believe that they're worth more than that, and they should be more of value to whoever's looking at purchasing a baby.
Right.
So
Well, if someone's just looking for the cheapest way to get a pet snake, I mean, that's not the person I really want.
yeah,
to go to my
and we
baby's
wouldn't be a right fit for them either.
Yeah.
But we really are working to create like a support base for people for the however long, you know, they wind up having this snake, and a like safe support system. So if something does go wrong or they need help with something, they can reach out to us, which is one of the reasons we have an application form for the babies, is just so they kind of know what it's like to keep a snake like a retic that might get 12 feet long.
That's funny. Like, we have a waiting list, which is something that happens in the reptile industry all the time. You guys have an application, which is like when we got our Sphinx kitten, we had to go through like, hey, this isn't a normal cat. You know what I mean? They have all these special needs or whatever it is. You got to make sure. And so we had to go through this this whole application process. So you guys are doing that even more like some of these other more established domesticated animals too.
Yeah, a little bit. It's not quite to the extent of like buying a high-end cat or dog, but as soon as you fill out that application, you get put on the wait list. You'll get a call from Jody to let you know that, you know, hey, you're on our wait list. Your application was approved. And then if you have any questions at that point, you can ask him. If he's not able to answer it, obviously he'll ask me.
And a lot of the application is kind of, you know, us learning about what a prospective keeper is really looking for, so that we can say, yeah, I think there's a chance that we're going to have, you know, obviously before the hatch, we don't officially know, but there's a chance that we will have something, you know, that is, you know, in the size range, price range, etc., that you're looking for, and making sure we're you know, that everybody's on the same page in that regard.
Yeah, and also size too. Like if they're looking for a 5-foot male, I'm not going to be the one to go to, you know, kick him to you for a Manu or something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, I think this stuff is great. I'm really excited to see. Now, when are her eggs potentially due to hatch?
tomorrow.
I didn't know exactly.
Yeah.
I knew that Karma was a little bit
today
behind.
it's 80 days, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what we said. Yeah.
Yeah.
With maternal, it could be a little shorter, longer. Who
Yeah,
knows?
I'm assuming, I would be surprised if I saw her eggs pipping tomorrow because she has been keeping them a little bit lower temperature wise, but yeah, tomorrow is the first day that we might be able to
So we're
expect to
behind
see
you
something.
by about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We're officially on
Yeah,
baby
so
watch.
as soon, if you want to get a first peek at the babies, you can join our Patreon, because they'll get, like, we're literally doing like day-to-day updates every single day with
And
her.
if someone wanted to throw in an application just to see, right? Like that would be
Yeah.
okay, right?
Yeah, the
Like
application
they
doesn't
don't know if they're
commit
gonna
you
buy
to
yet or
anything.
not.
Yep.
They just want to see. They would go to your website, which is
thecurlyhairedkeeper.com.
okay,
Yep.
cool. Well, I could talk to you guys about this forever, and we probably will. But you guys have to be on Patreon if you want to hear the rest of it and see the babies that are hatched. And then we can talk more about this because I think it's a fascinating subject. I'm glad that you guys are documenting it. We'll have a video out, so subscribe to us if you want to see what happens with Karma's babies. But yeah, is there anything else? Jody, got any burning comments or questions in over there?
No, not a ton. Lori actually mentioned, like, keep a good journal of this, take lots of videos and photos, because this is something that, you know, could potentially be published since it's not very well.
I've been thinking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Lori, I will message you because that would be a good perspective to get because we've been documenting every single day.
Well, like I said, we have our artificial way of doing it, but like, wouldn't it be cool if we could take what you guys did? I mean, it's always like, here's the pioneer, here's the, you know, like, how do I get 100% hatch rate out of maternal incubation?
Yeah.
And then I could scale that, and then the following year we could have 40 clutches. You know what I mean? Like, if there was if that stuff is able to keep going, I mean, it could really instigate some pretty fun change.
It could.
And what a cool process.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so fun to let the moms be the moms they want
It's
to
really
be.
cool.
Because they are really good moms, contrary to everything you hear about.
Yeah,
reptiles.
they're amazing mothers.
Okay, like I said, we could talk forever, but we will catch you guys next time. Thank you to Ship Your Reptiles, and thank you to all you guys for tuning in.
And we'll see you over on Patreon.
Woo woo. How do I end this thing?